Good evening and welcome to News Night. In the next 60 minutes. 100 storm NDC Tamale South constituency officers demanding immediate reversal of decision to remove Haruna Idrisu as minority leader.
It's a very big mistake leadership is making.
We have never experienced such changes before. This is our first time of hearing.
We hear from Haruna Idrisu, who has been defending his legacy as minority leader.
You may like or dislike Haruna. At least I got a speaker elected, I got a budget rejected and installed, I got a Japan rejected, I got a debt exchange which is still struggling to be approved in service of the people.
We are live in Aswasi, also in the Ashanti regional capital, where NDC supporters have been reacting to the removal of Minority Chief Whip Muttaka Mubarak. Also, Ministry of Health cites unexpected vaccine hesitancy, cold chain storage challenges, spontaneous donations, as well as manufacturer storage difficulties as reasons why vaccines worth $81 million paid by the government are yet to be received, insisting it is upholding the interests of the state. Details as the minority in parliament push for a probe, plus recommend for the prosecution of persons found culpable of misappropriating monies.
The revelations of the Auditor General provide new impetus for them to probe further and to call those institutions that the Auditor General have named to come forward and account for it.
We'll have details of that. Also, 7,000 school children in the Pandai district slam it hard on the floor because of a lack of furniture. The district education officer of Pandai cries for help, saying the situation is critical.
When we come and sit on the floor, our things will be dirty. The next day, when you go home, you like to wash your things, but your parents will not agree for you to wash the things. You don't even fail to come to school.
And in business, some beverage firms lay off workers, whilst others are shutting down operations due to high utility tariffs and unfavorable conditions.
And in sports, Chris Hutton leads the race to become next coach of the Black Stars, with football enthusiast and the Member of Parliament, Sam George, hinting the decision is because the association want to manipulate him.
We have details of that and more, plus individual bondholders forum strengthen resolve to demand exemption from the domestic debt exchange as they believe bank signing deal gives government 80% of its target. But is the finance minister breaking the law in the debt exchange program?
Legitimately, you've invested your money. You are entitled to the interest on your investment. Whether interest plus principal or interest and principal is yours. If the state decides to take it, that is an act of expropriation.
And we'll be hearing from the National Secretariat of the National Cathedral amidst all the controversy. That and more here on Newsnight. You want to join us with your thoughts and comments? It's via WhatsApp is 05511119997. We're live on Facebook, Twitter Spaces, and myjoyonline.com. I am Emefa Apawu.
And my name is Mensah. We start with the breaking news story all day about the reshuffle in the NDC leadership in Parliament. And that there hundreds who stormed the NDC Tamale South constituency offices demanding the immediate reversal of the decision to remove Haruna Idrisu as minority leader. Amid shocks, some vow to retaliate if the decision is not overturned.
Very big mistake leadership is making, and I think they need to reconsider their. We see him as the leader for progressive development in the party. So if some few members or leadership from the party top hierarchy could take such a decision without making consultation at the grassroots to see the contribution he's making to the party, I think it's unfortunate.
When you say Mama, our minority caucus in Parliament, and we were so disappointed because, as we are saying, we are in opposition now. So we have never had such a thing before. We have never experienced such changes before. This is our first time of hearing that. Even if they are changing it, we were in power and they were doing it, but yet we are in opposition. We want unity. We don't want any distribution in the country.
And so you think this decision is going to create disunity?
It is going to do it. We are telling them, I said in Kekitia and the 1540, that if they exchange Haruna, we will not listen to any one of them again. No minority leader, no I said in Kekitia. They shouldn't visit any northern region in Tamale.
Well, let me take you live to Tamale South now. Now, our correspondent Martina Bugri is there for us. Martina, so we've been hearing from hundreds who stormed the NDC Tamale South constituency offices. Well, I'm sure we've been hearing what exactly their concern is, the removal of Haruna Idrisu. But have we heard from the party leadership on this other level?
Held a meeting some few hours ago, and they are due to address the press later this evening. I must say that the police also came there to meet with the leadership of the party on how they can ensure that this doesn't escalate into something else. And so very soon the party leadership would be addressing the media on what decision they would take next.
Before we hear from the party leadership, because I know that the chairman of the Tamale South constituency has been speaking also, but give us a sense of what exactly happened just after the announcement. At what point did we get all these constituents massing up other party office?
Now, you know, the announcement came, you read the news at 12. Some said they heard it on JoyNews at 12. Some also said it was shared via social media. And so they took time to let it sink. And right after the 3 o'clock prayers, the party leadership started moving to the party office, and then the youth started marching up. And so within a twinkle of an eye, the place was already filled up with supporters of the party in that constituency. They started sharing posters of some of the executives, and those that were deliberately picked were that of the party chairman, Asedun Ketia, and the secretary, Fifi Kwete. They deliberately picked those ones and started carrying them, and then chancing, you know, that these are two people they would not want to see in that constituency if the decision is not reversed. They used printable words to describe the two, which is not so good for the state as we speak now. But largely they were very upset, very angry that such a decision is coming at this time. And they think that Mr. Idrisu is being victimized because he is alleged not to be supporting the candidature of John Dramani Mahama. That's the notion they hold.
Well, I'm sure
we spoke to the party chairman, and he had these unkind words to say too.
But this one, we are not that. Two people do it. I said Katia and two of them do it. But we are aware. We are aware that they will do more than this one because you know what to do. You know what to do. You know what to do. I said Katia vote, me to our vote. These people, all of them, yes, to vote. So don't do that. Why we are voting? You know how to do. If you want, I'm the chairman for Tamale South constituency. If you tell my people that vote for Haruna, don't vote for your mama. If you put them for a party, no, I ask you. If you go around and tell people that vote for Haruna. So yes, so that's why don't ask me that if you accept, if you do that, what I will do. So this one, that's why you say that you not agree. This one you not agree because if you go to I said if you don't do it. So I said Katia, I want to remind you, the time you came to General Secretary, you don't have Beswa. You don't have Beswa to give anybody. But you are giving the secretary to you. So now you are a big man. You want to punish people.
So that's the chairman of the Tamale South constituency, Suleimana Abdul Rauf. Martina, I know you're still on the beat for us as we wait for that official press conference. Tell us about the situation right now as we speak. Do we still have supporters at the party headquarters? And at what point exactly did the police also have to come in to control the situation?
As we speak now, they've called for prayers, so most of them have the space to go and pray. But from what I sense, we will definitely see some patrols in town already because we have some security personnel stationed around the area to ensure the place is safe. The police came in around 4 thereabouts to engage with the leadership. and this is to help calm down tempers so that it doesn't escalate.
That's my colleague Martina Bugri there. She's still on the beat. Once that press conference is underway, we'll get back to the Tamale South constituency for more reactions on this. Well, you've been speaking to Haruna Idrisu on this.
Yes, and Martina Bugri made a point there that on the ground in the constituency, in Haruna Idrisu's constituency, the supporters said that they believe this is happening to Haruna Idrisu because he doesn't support John Mahama. On PM Express yesterday, I asked him that question. For the first time, he actually endorsed John Mahama. He says John Mahama is the only credible candidate they have.
President Nana Addo Dankwa and his failings have made President Mahama more credible and a good credible candidate to market. Everything he cautioned against, which this government said we will do, they have done it to failure. So it's important that the Ghanaian people appreciate. I mean, you are talking about corruption. Look at the COVID report.
Did I just say you endorse John Mahama?
I have no hesitation doing that if I have to, because I essentially will vote him, and my constituency will stand strongly. But
I mean, so he says he will vote for him. He actually says his constituency will stand firm with him when it comes to it. It's almost saying that I can guarantee delegates from my constituency. But he's gone now. He was speaking to me less than 24 hours ago. Nobody knew he was going to, and the next day he will be a common floor member. But one thing he did was to defend his legacy as the minority leader.
As I'm completing my 5th term service to the country, public service, 20 years standing if I get this done, I've had the rare privilege.
20 years?
Yes. As
at the end of this particular term?
Yes. If I complete this, I would have done 20 years in Parliament. I've had the rare privilege to serve the Republic as Minister for Communications. My footprints are there.
Employment.
Minister for Trade and Industry, my footprints are there. Minister for Employment, my footprints are there. Even as minority leader, you may like or dislike Haruna. At least I got a speaker elected. I got a budget rejected and installed. I got a Japan rejected. I got a debt exchange which is still struggling to be approved in service of the people.
So that's Haruna Idrisu there, talking about his legacy, what he believes is done in Parliament. But there's something else he talked about last night. He appeared to have been very committed to pushing the party to protect his other members of Parliament who are currently MPs when it comes to the primary. In fact, this appeared to be his next agenda, going into the primaries later this year.
To protect his
MPs. Because remember the conversation we're having on Top Story, the MPs are not happy that they've not been consulted. Mutala saying you have to reverse that decision. You didn't consult us. Well,
Kleto Savoka also saying same.
And on the NDC MP platforms, the view there is that the party must consult them. They must have a say in who is appointed. Well, Haruna Idrisu makes the point to me yesterday that one of the things that he believes must happen in the primary is that his colleague MPs, including MPs like Mutala Mohammed and co. In fact, he mentions in particularly Roxin Dafiamekbo.
Okay.
Their seats must be protected by the party.
But I wish that as minority leader, they would have allowed me to do an assessment of some of my MPs. Some I need, and I need to keep them. So you see how democratic we are.
As in your primaries?
No.
Okay.
As minority leader, I should have a fair assessment of some of the MPs that the party necessarily must consider returning to Parliament.
Oh, as in your primaries?
Absolutely.
Okay,
because this work is about experience.
Any of them you have in mind that you could talk about?
I have several. Nelson Dafemekpo, Teddy, who has won Ayansuano for long, he didn't. And I may end up mentioning, as minority leader, my first loyalty is to incumbent. I support every incumbent who wants to return back to Parliament.
But the principle
save in a situation where he's so unpopular that the constituents are not likely to accept him.
That's Haruna Idrisu speaking to Evans last night on PM Express. Let's head to the Ashanti region now because another shocker is the removal of Mutaka Mubarak and the Swansea MP. And his constituents have been reacting to this. My colleague Nanaya Ojima is live there. But listen to his interaction with some of the constituents there.
He's the only MP in the metro. When we lost Ashanti region post, like when we lost Aswansi constituency election, when we lost it today, forget about NDC. Because Aswansi is the only seat in the metro which NDC can claim Ashanti region to boast. So when you don't, if you lost Ashanti region like Aswansi, show me which constituency NDC can come and make a campaign there. You can't go unless you go to Dubiasi or Ejura. All of them, they are outside Ashanti. Aswansi is the only constituency in Ashanti, metro. So why are you doing that?
Thank you so much. Is it going to affect the fortunes of NDC comes 2024 elections?
Yes, of course.
How?
I don't know where the party hierarchy got the idea of changing the leadership of the minority. I want to ask the top hierarchy of the party, in which article of the party constitution that states that the party hierarchy is mandated to choose the caucus leadership for the party at the parliament.
Have you actually gone through the constitution very well?
Well, let's go live now. Nanaya Ojima is there, and you recall the altercation between Mutaka Mubarak and the constituency chairman just about last week or so, unresolved, and this is where we are today. Nanaya Ojima, so what actually is the talk we've heard from the constituents themselves amongst the leadership of the party at Aswansi? What have they been telling you?
So we tried speaking to some of the party leadership in Aswansi, but none of them would respond to us. According to them, they are trying to gather more details on what is happening in Parliament, and if they are able to get these details, they will get back to us and speak to us on the matter. But among the party members in Aswansi, a lot of them are surprised about the development, and they believe that this shouldn't be allowed to happen. The party should reinstate both Honorable Muntaka and also the minority leader, because they, according to them, they've done so well in the past 2 years, and at least the party should allow them to finish their term in office as leadership, especially heading towards the next election.
Well, but do they have any official position? Are we hearing of whether indeed there will be an official communication on the part of the party at that level amongst others? And Mutaka Mubarak himself, we know he's been in the constituency. Have we spotted him? What exactly is the talk there?
As of now, whether it remains unclear if the party will issue an official communication on this. But I was trying to speak to some of the leadership, the people who hold executive position in the party. But according to them, they would want to meet as leadership of the party in the constituency and also discuss the issue and, if possible, respond to it. But it remains unclear. They are yet to have full communication that they are waiting for from the party leadership in Accra and other things. Though they are trying to gather some details on the removal, and if possible, they will speak to us. But as of now, we cannot confirm if they'll come out with an official communication on the removal of their MP as a chief whip in Parliament for the minority.
Well, in Tamale, we saw constituents massing up at the party office, tearing posters amongst others. Do we have same situation in Aswansi, and how are we controlling it?
It is not same in the Ashanti region. When I passed through the party office, it was very calm there. But some of the people that I saw them around the party office are not happy with the situation. It's not likely that we will see people mass up at the party office to destroy some property or demonstrate their displeasure.
That's my colleague Nanaya Ojima. Well, in the Volta region, we're told there's a statement from the Volta region NDC at that level congratulating Governor Kwame Agboja. And this is signed by the regional secretary, James Gunu, and saying that they are proud that he's been elevated to the position of the minority chief whip of the NDC group in Parliament. And that congratulations. And may the good Lord order your steps as you occupy that enviable position in Parliament. Your elevation goes to show the contribution of the Volta NDC to the cause of the larger NDC party in Ghana, and also your own contribution as the ranking member for the Roads and Transport Committee over the years. Ends by saying that the Volta Regional Party is ready to support you excel as you prepare to go into a critical election in 2024.
Let's speak to an NDC insider and a former leader on their side in the last parliament. He is Inusa Fuseni joins us on the telephone line right now. Used to be the minority spokesperson on constitutional legal affairs. Mr. Fuseni, did this come to you as a surprise at all? And what do you make of the concerns from some of your previous colleagues in the House on the NDC side that they should have been consulted?
Well, it came to me as a surprise because I never had an inkling of what the leadership of the party was doing. And so that was a surprise. But I respect the decision of the leadership of the party. And that is exactly why we put them in place, to take decisions for and on behalf of all of us in the interest of the party. So I believe that this decision is in the interest of the party.
Well, you may respect the decision of the party and talk about in the interest of the party amongst others, but is this a prudent decision?
I think every party wants to put its best foot forward. When we lost election 2020, we embarked on the reorganization of the party. We did branch auditing. We elected constituency executives. We elected regional executives, and then elected national executives. And so what is happening in Parliament is another reorganization of Parliament. And it is strategic because the battle for election 2024 will be fought in Parliament. Parliament will be a key battleground for election 2024 because our members in Parliament will have to work hard to win the minds and hearts of the people of Ghana. Because as minority members of Parliament, they need to scrutinize government policy in such a way as to demonstrate that those policies are hollow, cannot secure the overall welfare of the people of this country, and might put the people of this country in a very difficult situation if those policies are implemented. They have to work very hard, and the economy will be at the heart of election 2020. And there's no better place to fight to demonstrate that this party, this government doesn't mean well for the people of Ghana than Parliament.
Well, throughout your time in Parliament, do we have such a situation or a case where the membership were consulted before leadership decisions were taken, such as this?
Well, I do not recall. There's only one such circumstance. I was in Parliament in 2006, and I met Bagbin as the minority leader. And in 2009, he was the majority leader until he joined the executive. Then Kumbo came, and thereafter Cletus Ofoka came. So I don't know, I don't recall ever being consulted on who should be my leader. I recall in 2017, when we went to Parliament, the General Secretary then, Asidun Katia, in the company of some national executives, came and informed us on what the party had decided as regards leadership of the party in Parliament. I remember we raised issue. I was one such person who stood on the floor of Parliament, at the meeting ground to raise issue. I remember Gallagher raised issue. And so I don't recall, maybe in 2021, maybe there was a change of procedure, but I don't recall ever having to be consulted. But we were informed that this was the decision of the party. We were informed before the announcement was made.
Okay, well, we've seen protests. We've gone to Asawasi. We've heard concerns also in Tamale South, for instance. Many have described this as a coup d'etat within the leadership of the minority. Going forward, though, how should the party be handling this situation? We've had some MPs also very angry about the situation.
Yes, the party, I don't know why they did not take steps to inform the minority caucus in Parliament before the announcement, because that's why it took everybody by surprise. So maybe what I will say is that in future it will be important for the party to have the buy-in of the minority caucus in parliament, or the party's members in parliament, whether it's majority or minority. Because if we form government, we will be majority in parliament. And so the party must endeavor to ensure that decisions of such nature will have the buy-in of the caucus before announcement. That will reduce this level of rancor and complaints.
We're grateful. That's Inusa Fuseni. He's a former MP himself, and he's been talking about the reactions that have come in as a result of the changes in the leadership of the minority in Parliament.
You're still listening to News 9 on Joy 99.7 FM. Unexpected vaccine hesitancy, cold chain storage challenges, spontaneous donations, as well as manufacturers' storage difficulties are to be blamed for why vaccines worth $81 million paid for by the government is yet to be received. That's the justification the Ministry of Health is providing tonight after the Auditor General in this special report detailed various infractions said to have caused the nation to lose billions of cedis. Well, the ministry has been responding in the report, the statement that has now been released by the Health Ministry. Emefa, so what does the statement say?
So it provides some clarity and background to all this. It says as part of the African Union strategy to fight COVID-19 pandemic in Africa, Ghana subscribed to the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust, that's the AVAT protocol. Well, it was created as a central entity for the negotiation, procurement and payment for vaccine. We all recall that. And it says it must be noted that the AVAT protocol required upfront payment by countries for scheduled delivery such that soon as any such volumes of vaccines are available for delivery, payment is due through the AVAT arrangement. So for Ghana, over 16 million doses of the Janssen vaccines were allocated, and AVAT was to deliver these vaccines periodically per agreed delivery schedule, as and when we needed them. Well, the reason for the agreed number of doses were also as a result of the national policy of attaining herd immunity by immunizing 21 million people. Remember that target that was set, also to avoid wastage, expiration, and the difficulties globally in getting access to vaccines at the time. Well, so due to the unexpected hesitancy, like you've been saying, this is why we are where we are. However, this process was delayed because of the aforementioned challenges. Now, currently, the ministry requested and has received the June allocation, which was delivered in January 2023. And in the meantime, the ministry asked that they continue to work with the AVAT for a possible review of that contract that they signed, and we want to assure the public of their commitment to work in the supreme interest of the public. So that's some clarification that the Ministry of Health has been providing as a result of this Auditor General's report on our COVID-19 expenditure.
Well, Parliament, when they resume on the 7th, will begin a public hearing into this particular matter. Haruna Drisu wants further action.
The IMF asking for $3 billion US. You got $2 billion from COVID. What did you do with it?
Well, I mean,
the World Bank initially gave you $1 billion.
The government
later on, you got $380 million US from the World Bank.
Yes.
You got additional resources even from Korea. That even the Auditor General
hasn't. Yes, that's true. The Auditor
and I
General
think you should throw lights on it.
Yeah.
No, it means not even all the resources dedicated to COVID. The revelations of the Auditor General provide new impetus for them to probe further and to call those institutions that the Auditor General have named to come forward and account for it. Even releases to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we see a figure here less than what came to Parliament. So it means that the audit committee that the Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Bagbin, approved to probe COVID will have to go deeper
into this
and make sure that the state gets value for money.
Yes, exactly. But that's
the loot in the name
That's
of
the question that I'm coming to. I remember the last time Parliament formed a similar committee, similar to COVID affairs, when you looked into the Minister of Health.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't know what has come of that recommendation. That minister hasn't been sanctioned. Question is, Parliament will go into this, but then what will come out of the process at the end of the day?
Those are the failures of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Why him? This is Parliament.
You have a minister
for an independent government arm.
Who admits that I paid money for Sputnik. They were not supplied. I didn't go through proper procurement. He must be home. But the person to send him home is President Nana Addo Dankwa.
And that's Haruna Drisu, the former minority leader in Parliament. Still listening to News 90s on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, I want to turn our attention now to issues surrounding the National Cathedral. JoyNews is tonight learning that the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice has formally written to the National Cathedral Secretariat requesting its comments on a petition filed by MP for North Tongue Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. Now, Mr. Ablakwa alleged the Secretary of the Board of Trustees of Victor Kusi Boateng breached conflict of interest rules in the cathedral's payment of 2.6 million cedis to a private company in which he has an interest. This request from Shraj comes at a time when two respected members of its board, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams and Reverend Eastwood Anaba, want an independent audit into public funds used for the construction. JoyNews understands the board had, prior to the request, already decided to commission an audit. We have a statement from the Secretariat, but we'll bring that to you shortly. But Maxwell joins me with details of this memo that both Archbishop Duncan Williams and Reverend Eastwood Anaba have written. First, the two pastors make the point that their views on the project have not changed. What exactly has moved them to call for this suspension?
Well, Evans, that part of the document reads that, quote, the current economic climate in Ghana presents obstacles to the timely construction and completion of the National Cathedral. They then quote an American poet, quote, a deferred dream is not a dream denied,
so,
unquote.
What's this push for a probe then?
Well, it reads that in the spirit and cause of transparency and accountability to the Ghanaian people, the current Board of Trustees shall appoint an independent, nationally recognized accounting firm to audit all public funds contributed to and spent by the National Cathedral. Auditors will also audit the overall cost of the project. This, they say, shall take place before the deferment of the activities of the Board of Trustees, Evans.
Okay, so that's what you're asking for. Emefa, in the last few minutes, the National Cathedral Secretariat have issued a statement.
Well, they're acknowledging the concerns of the public relating to the justification for the construction of a national cathedral within the context of the current economic challenges confronting the nation. And then the second point for which reason the statement has been issued is issues relating to accountability and management of the National Cathedral project. So it goes on to say that it will be recalled that the National Cathedral project evolved as a vision of all the background as to why we are where we are, and to ensure its additional relevance to the churches and the nation, the board integrated an additional elements to the National Cathedral project, including that Bible Museum, all the reasons they've given so far. And it says substantial preparatory work and foundational construction work has been done on the project, and that this work has been made possible through the support of the state and generous donations by individuals, churches and institutions. Even non-Christians have made significant contributions towards the construction of the project. Well, quite regrettably, it says inadequate funding has brought the construction work on the project to a standstill, and that the major reasons for the inadequate funding include a general misunderstanding that it is the state that is fully funding the construction of the National Cathedral, and that within the challenging economic atmosphere in the country, this is misplaced. And then adds that the general impression being created that the National Cathedral project is not being executed with the expected high Christian standards of integrity, transparency, and accountability.
Well, interesting. So they are conceding that the project is now at a standstill because of funding challenges, and the funding challenges because the project has been painted as lacking integrity, transparency, and accountability, and the people simply say, government should not be funding this at the time of economic crisis. But then they've taken a few decisions as a result of this. One, the board say they've now begun discussions to engage Deloitte, which accepted to be the auditors when the National Cathedral was registered, to commence the normal statutory audit. So they're going to audit, which is what the Duncan Williams had asked for.
We're asking for.
In addition, they also say the project submitted all relevant documentation on the project to Parliament in December last year, and that if Parliament so desires, it may set up a commission or appoint an independent auditor to review all issues concerning the award of the contract, the procurement, construction works, financial operations of the National Cathedral project so far. So they are inviting Parliament to form a commission or on the project, on an independent audit to look into this, to satisfy themselves. And then the commission, as far as the human rights, the Shraj angle is concerned, it's a constitutional mandated body to look into these matters on the back of Okujeto Ablakwa's petition. Says the board says They've responded to its investigations because covering the operations of the National Cathedral project, and the board will fully cooperate with Straj in its work. There's a hope that they have that these three major things they're doing, audit, a commission of inquiry, cooperating with Straj, and that they're hoping that the board of the National Cathedral of Ghana, that once these nagging issues are satisfactorily dealt with, the public interest and the confidence in the project will be restored, right? And then rekindle and enable the citizenry to contribute generously to complete the cathedral, and I'm quoting, to the glory of God.
Okay, but it doesn't say if the project has been halted, but it says it's at a standstill. Admits it's at a standstill, but not a decision that they have taken.
Because you're not contributing, because you don't trust the system.
Okay, that's what
Have you
they're
been paying
saying.
your tithes?
Let's bring in the North Tongue MP, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa Evans. And we're grateful for your time here on Newsnight, Mr. Okujeto Ablakwa. So this is the statement, the latest statement from the National Cathedral and Secretariat. Well, they are open for an audit, even a commission or an appointment of an independent auditor by Parliament, amongst others, and they are cooperating with the Straj investigations. All this, I'm sure, satisfies you at this point, doesn't it?
Good evening, Emefa. Quite a positive development. The Ghanaian people who we represent in Parliament have been demanding greater oversight and deeper accountability. This is a project that has been fraught with deception, with lack of transparency, with a lot of scandals, really. It's been scandal dominated from day one. And so it is positive to hear that the Board of Trustees are going to invite an international auditor to audit this. I am also glad that they have indicated that they are open for a full-scale parliamentary inquiry. This is heartwarming because last year, a number of colleagues in the House and I submitted a motion for a full-scale inquiry. And I will expect that when the House resumes early next month, the Right Honourable Speaker will look upon that motion favorably, and Parliament will get to look into the National Cathedral project. I'm also particularly pleased that the Cathedral Secretariat has confirmed in their statement that the fundraising has not gone well. There has been a lot of doubts about the real, if you like, importance of this project at this time in terms of the prioritization. And so if you listen to them carefully, there is a tacit admission that this project will now be, if you like, taken off the front burner. It will not be a priority of priorities, as the president had said earlier. Remember that the contractors, Rebade JV, have been off-site since the 14th of March 2022. They indicated in their termination letters to their staff that the government has not been paying them regularly, and that for lack of funding, they are suspending work. So we are 10 months into that suspension. So I am glad that we are not going to see the, if you like, earlier effort to conceal the releases of funds from Parliament and then divert funds on the blind side of Parliament to this project.
We'll leave it here for now. We are indeed grateful for your time, and we'll be following up on this as Parliament resumes. We'll see the decision that we'll be taking when it comes to that call for an independent audit, and then also a commission if Parliament wills. We'll see how it goes. And it's time for business. When we return, Individual Bondholders Forum, they've strengthened their resolve to demand exemption from the domestic debt exchange, as they believe banks signing deals gives government 80% of its target. But is the finance minister actually breaking the law in the debt exchange program is the key question.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, some beverage firms are laying off workers whilst others are shutting down their operations. Now, this is as a result of the challenging business environment and high tariffs. Now, JoyNews Apawu is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, and he's been making a strong case for the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission to review the recent tariffs for industries.
Our beverage companies, for example, rely very heavily on water to produce the drinks that they produce and so on. And so that cost is a major cost for production. And if you increase the water by 48% within 6 months, that affects the overall cost of the beverage firm. And that we're having all of these cheap beverage products being imported, they are unable to compete. So as a result, some of the folks are really closing down, or cutting down operations. Some of the workers are being laid off because they are unable to compete.
All right.
So we're saying that these are the realities that need to be dealt with. So an increment in utility, AGI is not against it. We're just saying that it has to be managed in a manner that is helpful for us as industry.
And JoyNews Apawu is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries. Now, former chairman of Parliament Finance Committee, Dr. Mark Esibeyebua, is pushing for a renegotiation with the IMF of Ghana's debt level reduction. Now, government is expected to reduce the country's debt levels to 55% of GDP by 2028. Now, this has resulted in the Finance Ministry embarking on a debt exchange program with the Domestic Exchange Initiative, which has actually been hit with some opposition. Dr. Esibeyebua insists this might be the way to go.
Go to the IMF and tell them that the negotiations we did in October, which said that debt to GDP ratio should come down to 15%, debt service of 18%. We cannot meet those standards. That's why we call it IMF negotiations with the fund. We cannot, because we cannot carry out measures which will bring difficulties on our people. We have to put a human face to the debt restriction. I think there are people at the fund who understand the issues, and then they know the kind of fragile economy we have, the impact on our citizenry, and they would also bend over. So there's nothing wrong with going back to the fund. It might delay the whole process by another 2 months, but we have to get it right.
Dr. Mark Esibeyebua is the former chair of Parliament's Finance Committee. In a separate development, the Institute of Economic Affairs is asking government to exclude rural banks, individual bondholders and pension funds from the domestic debt exchange program, given their relative financial challenges. He has been speaking at a news conference in Accra.
Rural banks, again, because they pick the savings of rural people, poor people, and then they invest it in government bonds. And some are under compulsion, the monetary policy prudential requirement, even to invest in government bonds, the rural banks. So why are you seizing their monies, which belong to poor people? And so they should be excluded. If anything at all, deal with the big banks, the commercial banks.
And that is the Dr. John Kwachi. He is the director at the Institute of Economic Affairs. To other stories, and let's talk about the fact that the Bank of Ghana has announced that it would started its first Monetary Policy Committee meeting for this year. But what are some of the issues that would dominate this first gathering for the year? There is more in this report.
Should some extra measures be introduced to help deal with recent pressure on the Ghana cedi? Well, that is one of the questions that will come up strongly during this meeting. This is due to the recent challenges with the local currency, which started in December last year. The committee will also not forget about the perennial first quarter pressure on the cedi, as most businesses demand dollars to restock for the year. Again, what will be the inflation rate, whether it will decline indeed in the coming months, or some new measures are needed to check liquidity. Most industry watchers will also be looking forward to the end of year numbers when it comes to Ghana's debt stock, cedi's performance against the dollar, inflation rates, and whether the Bank of Ghana ended 2022 missing out on most of the key monetary indicators. Also, updates on the IMF program negotiations and the almighty debt exchange program and its impact on the entire banking industry.
That is the Business Desk report. In a related development, that is it. Dr. Samankra, president of the African Investment Group, is one of those businesses that is making a strong case for the Bank of Ghana to concentrate heavily on stabilizing the Ghana cedi for the first quarter of this year.
The flippage of the currency is a huge problem. It cannot be done overnight, but I'm sure a solid proposal to IMF to back them on a pegging situation for a period, just to bring some sanity into the market. It's something that you should research and look into. Because without stability, all these that we're talking about, the fundamentals cannot be built overnight. And from my point of view, I believe that if we look at stabilizing it where we can have the currency pegged for at least some years, and then sort out homegrown policies where we raise higher taxes on importation and give tax leeway to local production.
Dr. Samankra is president of the African Investment Group, making a strong case for the Bank of Ghana to make the cedi stability its priority as the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana began meeting today for the next 3 days to review developments in the economy. Well, the commercial banks are quoting a dollar at 12 Ghana cedis, 50 pesos. That is the average quotes that they are offering to their clients, while the Forex Bureau selling a dollar at 13 Ghana cedis, 20 pesos. To the stock market, if you are a shareholder in Cowbank, you lost a peso today, and the share is now worth 57 pesos. Gold was also down by a peso to close at 1 Ghana cedis, 70 pesos. That of Unilever lost 27 pesos and is now worth 2 Ghana cedis, 50 pesos. And that's all for Business on News Night.
Thank you very much, George. It's time for sports now. Musbao is here with the very latest. Musbao, what do we have?
Well, Emefa, we understand former Nottingham Forest and Black Stars technical advisor Chris Hughton is likely to be announced as the new coach of the senior national team to replace Otto Addo, who left the role following Ghana's exit from the World Cup. Well, Chris Hughton's stint with the team as technical advisor seems to have given him this upper hand over other candidates, with sources indicating that the association is convinced that his familiarity with the team will be a useful asset in the quest to reposition the Black Stars as a competitive side. However, rumors are also rife that the decision to choose him is only because the FA can easily manipulate him, a view also shared by sports enthusiast and Member of Parliament Honorable Sam George.
That job, they've given it to Chris Hughton already, so why are we wasting our time?
Already?
Oh.
So they shouldn't apply?
They've given it to him because they want someone they can manipulate, someone who they can use to do their business, someone who they can tell, if our team selection, okay, this one is my team player. Me, I'm at the GFA. This person plays for me. I'm his manager. Put him inside. Whether he's kicked the ball in 8 months or not, they put him inside. Look, let's not waste our time.
That's Honorable Sam George there. Also, events, you're likely to see Chris Hughton appointed head coach of the Black Stars, hopefully by the end of this week or early February.
Okay, thank you very much, Musbao. Now, in the second part of our series, Ghana Schools of Shame, Jojo Kobna reports that 7,000 students in the Kwandai district of the northern region do not have furniture. A lot of these children write while squatting, kneeling, or lying on their bellies. The children want the government to give them school furniture so they may learn comfortably and with dignity. Well, individual bondholders more than ever are resolved in their demand for a total exemption from the domestic debt exchange program following the onboarding of the Ghana Association of Banks. The forum are assured that the bank signing on gives government 80% of its bond targets needed to secure a deal from the IMF, which then frees individual holders their 11%. Yesterday, a joint statement from the Ministry of Finance and the Association of Bankers confirmed that terms of the deal had been reviewed to favor the banks, leading them to sign on. The details of the new agreement include an agreement to pay a 5% coupon for 2023. Well, there are concerns about what exactly has happened so far in terms of talks and interactions with the individual bondholders and government. Let's bring in the convener, Senior Hosi, joining us. We are grateful for your time here on Newsnight, sir. So let's talk about the extent to which the banks signing make a difference in your negotiations with government.
Well, government has indicated that it needs 80% of participation on this eligible bond. And the banks are a major subscriber to the entire eligible bond. So if they are participating in it, the government will be able to get closer to 80%. And we commend the banks and government for reaching a deal.
And that further emphasizes the need for government not to add individual bondholders, because they are definitely going to get their 80%, and there's no need to chase their 11%. The other thing government has to realize that now with banks getting into this mix, banks are going to have challenges with loanable funds, which come from households. So when you stifle their source of loanable funds and you stifle them at the same time, you might as well just close down the economy. So I think that there's going to be a good balance in this entire mix, and individual bondholders have to be left off the hook. Another thing that we all need to note is that the banks have been given certain incentives like capital adequacy ratios, a financial stability fund, as well as a cash reserve requirement revisions, which just favor the banks and the ability to sustain operations. There can't be any kind of package like that for individual bondholders. So there's no point trying to punish us unnecessarily when there's no incentive for it. You need 80%. We are 11%. You still have 89% within the market to solve your problem. Please, Exodus 5:1. Let our people go.
That's the convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum, Senor Jose. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsnight. That's how we wrap up tonight's edition. And the Geek Squad, they are up next.